Appreciate everyone taking the time. I thought it would be productive here to spend a couple minutes talking about some of the things we did over the last few days. Excited about the 3 additions that we made on the trade market. Felt like the value of all 3 guys, knowing the players, having people here who had been and lived with these guys really helped us get a sense of who these guys are, not only as players, but as people too, which is always important when you're bringing in guys in the middle of the season. It's our job to make sure that we're making sure that no stone is left unturned when we're trying to acquire talent. That's our job, and it doesn't stop just because the trade deadline stopped here. Obviously, we'll continue to monitor every possible area to improve, and at the same time, understand that we got a big opportunity here as a football team in the second half of the season, and then in the off season with the amount of picks that we have.
We'll kick it off with John McMullen and then go to Ruben Frank.
Hey, Howie. With Jaelan Phillips, I guess we'll start there. What did you like about his skill set to make you think he's a fit, and how much did his history with Vic factor in to that mid-season sort of plug and play aspect of it?
All these guys, the process starts with college, and we spent a lot of time with him coming out of college, knowing the person. It's really easy to scout the player. Really, he's got freak ability. He can rush. He can set the edge. He can play in space. He's got a nonstop motor. I think one of the most fun things to do is put on his tape and watch his effort, And when you have the athleticism and the physical ability he has, with the effort he has, and then just going and seeing that he was Walter Payton Man of the Year in Miami, the things that he does in the community. He comes from an unbelievable family, and then obviously Vic was with him. So a lot of times when you're talking to your coaches and you have a vision of how the player is going to fit, you have to have those discussions. But that discussion was really easy with Coach Fangio. I think I just said that discussion was really easy with Coach Fangio. Wow. And I think that it was just for us, where we are as a team, what we believe in is important to winning a world championship and to being a great team. It really wasn't a hard trade to make.
We'll go to Ruben and then Tim McManus.
Hey, Howie, along those lines, can you just speak in general about what you have at the edge now with Nolan coming back soon, his window opening with BG back in the mix, and just that whole room, what you like about it?
Yeah, add in Jaylen's there, obviously Ruben as well, and our best teams. We've been fortunate to be in 3 Super Bowls over the last 8 years, and they've been led by our front. And you can never have enough pass rush. You can never have enough cover corners, and they're hard to find. And so getting another player who can get pressure on the quarterback in key situations, those guys are always going to be paramount to our success. And when you talk about that room, excited about all those guys in the room. And when you can rotate those guys and you can keep them fresh, especially with the talent that you're talking about with those guys possess, it just opens up all the possibilities to really be a dominant defensive front when you combine our interior defensive line with them as well. So obviously it's got to come together. It's got to come together on the field, but feel like we got a really good front, and obviously adding Jaylen to that puts a lot of pieces in place to give us the opportunity to be dominant up front.
We'll go to Tim and then Dave Zangaro.
Hey, Howie, there's a lot of conversation on the outside about A.J. Brown. What was your stance internally when it came to Brown? Did you entertain any offers for him?
Well, would really like to keep this about the guys we acquired, but Tim, I think that when you're trying to be a great team, it's hard to trade great players. And A.J. Brown's a great player. He wears the C for a reason. He's an important part of this team, of this organization. He cares about winning. He cares about his teammates. And I think that when you're a team like ours that is looking forward to an opportunity to compete for a championship, you just don't get rid of the guys like that. And so feel very lucky to have him on our team, and excited about the second half of the season with him.
We'll go to Dave and then Jeff McLean.
Howie, with Jaelan Phillips on an expiring contract, how interested would you be in extending him beyond just this season?
Dave, I think first of all, I never really get into contract discussions with any players, but we have a lot of good players who are free agents after this year. And I think when you start picking favorites, when you're trying to compete for championships, there are other issues that come along with that. And so, I think there's going to be plenty of time to handle our business, however long this season lasts, and hopefully it's a very long time. And we'll deal with all that when the time comes.
We'll go to Jeff McClain and then Bo Wolf.
Howie, just a philosophical question. I know that you've added now at the edge rusher group, but if you look at your positional spending, it's compared to years past, you're spending a lot less at edge rusher, much more at inside linebacker. Is that just kind of a reflection of, Vic and the scheme, or is that just the way things have played out this year?
Is there a picture of you, Jeff? I don't see a picture. No picture? I'm trying to find
I believe there is.
I'm trying to find him, Emily. You see him, Bob? I don't see him. You see him? No. I don't.
You might be on a different page.
I don't see you either, Howie.
You don't? Well, that may be to your benefit. Anyway, so I think that when you look at that, sometimes it's a factor of rookie deals, right? You talk about our edge rushers, and obviously you got Jaylen and Nolan on rookie deals. Zach was obviously a free agent here. But when you really look at these inside linebackers, I think sometimes the conversation is, have we changed what we believe in? And when you look at our inside linebackers, these guys can affect the passing game. They can affect the passing game, rushing from depth. They can reset the front by coming up on the edge. They can play in space. They can cover people in space. And so, we believe that it's really important to affect the passing game. And so it really hasn't changed our philosophy and what's important in winning and losing. I think those guys are big-time players at the inside linebacker position. We've been fortunate to have good players at that position here over the last couple of years. And so I don't think it resets really what we're doing. And I think some of the timing about the resources comes on rookie contracts. Did I answer that question? Jeff? Hello?
Sorry, I was muted. Sure.
Did you want to follow up? Because I was more into my joke of finding you. I think I may have forgotten some of the question.
I also want to know how much Vic factors into that. He joked last week that his input is minuscule, but if you look at the way the roster is built and Jaylen, obviously a player that he played for, it seems like minuscule is underestimated. He's underestimated his influence.
Well, minuscule, I don't know that there's an adjective lower than minuscule. So I think that would certainly, that would not be fair to say that his influence is minuscule. We talk a lot about a lot of things, and but I'd say there's a lot of trust, and I think that he's got a lot of trust, just like I got a lot of trust for him and what he's doing. And so I feel fortunate to have that relationship with him.
We'll go to Bo and then Ed Kratz.
Hey, Howie, on the other two trades, how differently do you feel about the cornerback group today than you did a week ago? And was moving Cooper to the outside a part of the calculation in these moves?
Yeah, I think the first half of the season showed us how important corner depth is. We had a bunch of games here where we didn't have our full complement of guys, and it's a position that you need to have a bunch of guys here for the amount of games that we're trying to play. And so when these opportunities came about, first with Michael, Michael's another guy that we knew really well coming out of college, and then just like Vic with Jaylen, obviously Joe Douglas is here, and he had a lot of experience with the person. And so, when you go and you watch someone and then you go talk to someone who's been with someone whose opinion you trust, whether it's Vic or Joe or CP with Jair, and you see things the same way and they're telling you about the person, that makes you more confident in what you're getting. And, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to be able to match up with all kinds of shapes and sizes at the wide receiver position in the secondary. When you have guys who can do that, it just gives you so much flexibility. When you're going to play different teams and the different types of receivers they have, the different types of tight ends, even backs coming out of the backfield. And when you talk about Michael Carter, the guy has played an elite level inside. So that gives you flexibility there. Incredibly sharp guy. Joe Casper coached him at Duke. He could play safety, which is really important. I think that, we've always had that piece of a guy who could play nickel and also come into the game and play safety. Last year we had that with Avante. And so it gives that flexibility. Obviously, Coop, incredible player and somebody who can play really anywhere in the secondary. So it gives you those matchups. Did you just ask about Michael, or you asked about both pieces?
Just how differently you felt about the room in general with those guys, but yeah.
And then, with Ja, I remember just when he signed in June with Baltimore, thinking what a great signing by them. And obviously it didn't work out for the way that he wanted or that they wanted, or he wouldn't have been available to us. But, the relationship we have with Baltimore and being able to have honest conversations and understanding what he went through a little bit in training camp and getting back to health, obviously missed a lot of time last year. And then just really doing a deep dive on him and how successful he's been, what we thought of him last year, when we were in Brazil playing them, and then for the first part of the year, and then having CP who's with him and getting to know the mindset of the player. And so, sometimes, you get in this league, you acquire information, you watch everything, and you feel like, hey, the risk is worth the reward here. And I think when you talk about still a young guy, knowing where his health is at now, feeling healthy, feeling good, we felt like the risk was worth the reward with him.
We'll go to Ed and then Martin Frank.
Hi, Howie.
Hi.
I know you want to stick to acquisitions here. Brandon Graham is sort of an acquisition here at the trade deadline. Can you give some clarity as to what sort of led to bringing him back into the locker room and onto the field?
Yeah, I know when we talked in August, I think it was in August, even though it seems like a lifetime ago, I kind of joked that, we weren't fully ready to hand over the keys. And that was because it felt like there was still meat on the bone in terms of trying to acquire players and understanding the resources that we had in terms of draft picks to possibly do that. And before the season started, before we went down any path, I call BG. I mean, fortunate really to have special relationships with a bunch of guys here, and BG was my first pick. And so just reached out and said, hey, we're in the market for an edge rusher. How you feeling? And at the time, he just felt like that wasn't the right timing for him. Hadn't really contemplated, was doing a bunch of other things. But apparently got his mind started moving a little bit, and he started working out a little bit harder. And when Z retired, picked up the phone again and just said, hey, I'm just reaching out again. I'd heard a little bit through the grapevine you were working out a little bit harder. And, I got that little BG cackle. Is it a cackle when they laugh like that, Bob? Is that a cackle? I don't know. I've never used that word before. What'd you say? Like Troy? Oh, yeah, Troy does laugh like that. And that kind of gave me a sense that, he wanted to come back. And I don't know, maybe he was trying to have our team prove that we were any good. And when he saw that we had a chance here, he wanted to take the opportunity. But love having him back. I said to him when he came back, I said, I guess there's going to be a day where we're not going to have you to rely on. I'm just glad that day's not today.
We'll go to Martin and then Zach Berman.
Hey, Howie. If I can get back to Jaelan Phillips for a minute. He obviously had 2 major injuries over the past couple of years, and it seemed like he's come on pretty strong the last 5 games or so when I think he's had all 3 of his sacks. How important was that for you to see that involvement or his recovery from those 2 pretty major injuries in order to go after him like you did at the trade deadline?
Yeah, and obviously there's no insurance on any of these deals. We gave up a 3rd-round pick, which is a lot of compensation, obviously. Really went back and whenever we make these moves for all 3 of these players, really doing a deep dive on these guys and not just watching this year, but going back and watching through their career and going back and reminding myself kind of what we thought of them coming out and watching some of them in college and watching those injuries. The Achilles happened on a Black Friday game, I think 2 years ago at MetLife Stadium. The ACL, was I think a teammate kind of went into his leg, so it wasn't one of those non-contact injuries. And then, just knowing the person and what kind of worker he is, the freak show athlete that he is, and then seeing the effect that he had on the game this year, and watching him and just seeing the difference that he makes. And really, he's made every time he's on the field since they drafted him. And for us, it's so hard to find difference makers as players and as people that, you don't want to live with regret in this job. And, I think when we came down to it and had the conversations, the regret would be not doing everything we can to try to maximize the ability of this team to win as many games as we possibly can and give ourselves an opportunity in January and hopefully February.
We have time for 2 more, so we'll go to Zach Berman and finish with Jimmy Kempski.
Hey, good afternoon, Howie. Even by your standards, this has been an active 3 months, 9 trades since the start of camp, 3 in the past week. What circumstances were unique this year? And then specific to the past week, were there prevailing lessons from how you navigated the past trade deadlines as a Super Bowl contender?
I think it first starts with an overall philosophy that, we could upgrade every spot. We can upgrade every spot, on our practice squad, on our 53-man roster, with that mentality, looking for any edges, So if there's an incremental difference in a player, we owe it to our team, to our fans, to our building, to our owner to do that. And sometimes these opportunities, come at positions that maybe we don't perceive as needs, but feel like, it's hard to acquire talented young players. I think when I look at Tank Bigsby, I'm happy with our running backs. Obviously think we got the best player, in the world at that position. Love Will, love AJ. And when just evaluating Tank and the skill set that he had, just felt like, it's hard to find guys like that on rookie deals who have that level of explosiveness and that talent in their body. And so, may not screamed like a need, but for us, felt like, we have to continue to add talent. We're playing a long season. Depth is important. Having really good players everywhere along your 53-man roster is important. And so I think it starts with really that mindset and that attitude, but with the same balance, because you're trying to balance everything like a seesaw, understanding that we're going to have needs coming forward. And we don't want to give up picks just to give up picks. And so, I look at it, I feel like, we went in and in August, getting Fred, big move for our football team. We have some young players we like at that position, but the stability that he brings at that offensive tackle position, to get him, even on the waiver wire, getting Xavier. Give me some more moves, Zach, so I don't forget.
Yeah, well, it was the Mechie trade, which we spoke about, but then Sam Howell, and then, so those were the main ones.
And
Obviously,
I think Sam
Jatorian
would
Bennett as
speak
well.
to like Tank, liked our quarterback room, but had the opportunity to get a guy that we think is a talented quarterback at the most important position, and just felt like, through the course of a season, having that 3 quarterbacks who you had a tremendous confidence in was a great way to go into the season. So I think all of that, but, I think that at the same token, you don't go into, it's not like, if you win $100, it's not like you have $100 that's found. That's still your $100. And so for us, just because we had a lot of picks, we weren't trying to be aggressive with the picks just to get rid of them. Every trade had to have the right value. We love having a lot of picks. They give us tremendous opportunity to improve our football team in the offseason, but felt like when we evaluate all of these moves, they made sense from our perspective, and we'll see how they work out.
We'll finish with Jimmy Kempski here.
Hey, Howie, Martin stole my injury question, but I'd also like to ask just about Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett, who you both you were reportedly interested in trading for each of those guys. Michael Parsons, of course, before the season began.
Are you trying to get me fined by speaking of players on other teams? Is that your goal here, Jimmy? I can see that being your goal.
The players aside, it does seem like you are willing to, make a big swing and trade multiple future first-round picks. Whether it's for those players or anyone else. What makes you comfortable, trading away those kinds of draft assets?
I feel like when there's opportunities to be aggressive for the right players, we're not going to sit on our hands. I don't think that you have great success without taking great risks at times. They got to make sense in terms of the risks that you're taking. And so, we can't be afraid to fail. I think for a lot of times, for you to get to the top, that you got to be willing to take chances that, may look controversial at times. And so if there was an opportunity to do that, that we thought gave us also an opportunity to be the last team standing, put confetti on our head, we're going to go aggressive in that direction. I just feel like that's the right way to operate our team. And that doesn't come without mistakes. I understand that. But, I won't live with regret. I won't live with regret in the way that we operate around here. And so if we feel passionate about something, if we think the value's right, we're not going to be afraid to pull the trigger.